Wish that you were better and happier, more aligned. I think I'm with you, man. You guys know I've been going so hard for nonstop since I started my business, and I actually have not, even though I'm automated with my agency, I'm like, I give you guys 100% all the time, before I clocked out. Once I clocked out, I was gone. But I think for so long, I was just nonstop, not stop doing, just doing that. Sometimes it's good to take a step back and focus on being and not having anything to do and just simply being. And I think what's crazy is I thought for so long that would mean that the business would stop moving and things would not work. But in a way, it actually creates so much more space for the business to grow. And if I'm speaking from the heart here, guys, I feel like I've in a way let you down as a role model and as a leader by always being drive, go. Because most of us already have that within us. And truth be told, we probably all need to dial it back every once in a while. Obviously, there's seasons, there's periods to push, there's periods to take a step back. But something that I hope to do as a leader moving forward, showing you guys that you can crush it and you can succeed while still keeping your relationships intact, while still being really close to your friends outside of work, while still having hobbies and things that you're passionate about and care about. So that was one of the other big takeaways. Like, who do I really want to be as a leader? And, my goal is to show you guys that you can continue to scale and make a lot of money without sacrificing life. And that starts by actually leading as an example. And that meant taking time off. Because if I can't take time off and show you guys that that's okay and still allows you to succeed, then my actions won't speak for themselves. That's also a big reason why I decided to clock out. I knew that it would be healthy for all of us to see, hey, someone at our level can disappear and things will still be 100% okay. And they were. Actually, what's crazy is once I came back, a lot of the things that didn't seem to quite click, like for example, 7FA has been struggling with ad account shutdowns for months. And it's definitely affected some of our numbers. At the very least, we're not hitting records the way we were before and growing. And it's because we can't spend money on ads. Like, it's hard to grow when you were spending 6 figures a month and now you're spending a lot less. But as soon as I came back, all those issues were taken care of. And now our ad spend is up to close to 6 figures a month again. So it's crazy how sometimes giving the business space and giving yourself time gives you exactly what you need to move forward. I don't know, Jasmine, what do you think? How have I been since I came back?
There was like stages. You can't, I'm looking at Colton and Colton's laughing. There was stages when you first came back, you were like extremely chill and just very, I don't know, it seemed like you had like an awakening or like a walkabout. You know how people go in Australia, they go on walkabout and you just completely go off grid and you're trying to see if you can survive or whatever. It seemed like you came back and you just had this whole aha moment over the last 2 weeks. And you were just, I know the way. It was like Star Wars type stuff. I don't know. These are really weird analogies, but there was definitely a shift while you were gone. And then now I feel like you have a lot more clarity and direction. And now it's like, there were all these things that we were planning on rolling out and all these amazing innovations that we're working on. But it was just, when you came back, it was, I know exactly what needs to come first. And I know exactly how we're going to get it done.
Yeah.
Joel.
So there was a benefit of you taking the step back for sure, as opposed to you coming back and then throwing all the spaghetti again. It was like, okay, let's refocus and let's get this done the right way.
Definitely. Gil, what's up?
How do you have any advice? And I know you didn't necessarily do this yourself, but do you have any advice for us that don't have the ability to take like 2 weeks and disconnect right now, either because of our families, our home life, or because of our business just needs more attention right now? Like, how can we do this in like bite-sized chunks? Like,
That's a great question. And that's where I'm hoping to, like, I even told my wife, I'm like, we had an incredible time, but this is not what normal life is going to be like. We can't just be on vacation forever. And we're hoping to find more of a middle ground. What that looks like right now is I've been leaving my computer at the office and turning my phone off as soon as I get home. That's been big. So that's one minor shift that's helped out. I have not been looking at my phone in the mornings. It's off. It's not on, it's off until I'm done with my workout. So at like 9:30 a.m., I finally turn my phone on. The simple, what I realized when I was gone is when you have your technology there, you're not using it, you're still connected to it. Whereas if it's off, you're like, oh, I can breathe. It's done. It's shut off. So that's been one little hack, shutting off my my phone and my technology 100%. Like last night, I got home, me and my wife ordered dinner. Like we picked up some Thai food and I just turned my phone off immediately. Another thing that I want to start doing is taking at least one full day off every single weekend. Phone off. Like just completely off. And so you can definitely still implement some of these things without going to an extreme of 2 weeks off. And I think the other big shift is a lot of us have all of our identities wrapped up in work, especially with COVID. I think pre-COVID, we all probably had more hobbies, more things that we did outside of work. But I know for me personally, all my hobbies, all the things that I was doing got shut down. And I'd probably say my mental health last year was the worst it's been in a while, because the only thing that I had was work. Like I couldn't travel anymore. A lot of the friends that I normally see that are just childhood friends were a little bit more conservative with COVID. So I didn't get to see my friends. A lot of the hobbies stopped. So what I would say is another way to make it easier for you to clock out is to put more eggs in other baskets, as opposed to putting everything as far as who Gil is in your business. I think for a long time, I've been Joel the entrepreneur, and I forgot that I was also Joel the friend, Joel the person who loves basketball and plays in a league. And I mean, some of you guys don't know this because this was pre-COVID, but I used to do improv comedy a few times a week. So like that completely stopped. And I think one of the easiest ways to be able to clock out is having other things to clock out for. The problem is when all we have is our business and there's no other parts of our identity, then that's all we got. So we don't really have a reason to clock out.
Joel, or I was just going to say, do you think that it's possible when you're building the business though, to like, I mean, well, is it possible? Yes, but more so, is it likely or a good thought process to go into it while you're building it? I know you want to rejuvenate and make sure you don't burn out, but I feel like it's very common to feel like you have to put in so much work to get to the next like point where you can more so remove yourself, that you don't, like, it's almost like you're making the knowing sacrifice that, hey, I know my, like relationships might suffer. I know this, but I'm doing it for the overarching good of like what I want to build, and the sacrifice now to
definitely
pay later.
I would say that there's seasons to it. when you're starting a business, yeah, you got to put in more work. When you don't have systems in place, yeah, you got to put in more work. But I'm over here with 2 successful businesses. I have 3 amazing business partners, 1 in the agency, 2 in the coaching program. And if I still can't clock out, then we got a problem, right? At that point, it's more of a mental choice. I'm not in the seat and once I'm at the point where I really, if I don't make more money, I will be okay. So to have this never ending, I need to grow, and not even be able to take a step back doesn't make sense. So I think it's about understanding where you're at in the process. But then also, once you're at the point where you can clock out or start to clock out a little bit and take care of yourself, making that mental choice. Because what I realized is that I've been able to disconnect a little bit more and take a step back for the past probably year or 2, but I haven't chosen to do it. So my business we have an amazing team. Nothing really broke while I was gone. If anything, things got better. So yeah, of course, at the beginning, if you guys get a massive client, there's going to be seasons where if you're launching a new offer, there's going to be seasons of putting in more work, but that can't be the norm forever. And I think, just speaking from the heart, I probably got blind to the fact that it's a marathon, not a sprint. And sprints are definitely powerful and needed, especially at the beginning. But eventually you have to see it as more of a marathon, because I want to be playing this game for the next 30 years, not just the next 2 or 3 years.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I appreciate your answer to that, man.
Yeah, because it's now I came back, I'm super clear-headed. I know exactly what we need to do. I feel much more energized, and then I can sprint again. So, and I would say even at the beginning, even when I was running Atlas, you can still clock out for a Saturday or for after 7, 8, even 9 p.m. Some of you guys work till the moment you go to sleep. You can still clock out and make it work.
I was just going to say that, Joel. Yeah. As a family man, actually putting in my calendar every day, blocked out time where I can cook for my kids or go for a walk. And even it doesn't have to be a day, it can be half an hour. But if it's blocked out in the calendar, your mind just goes free and you're in the moment with them, because it's nothing else is happening. It's in your calendar. It's something that must be done. We all focus on putting SOPs and all kinds of automations and things in our businesses, but we forget to also put that in our personal and family lives, because it's equally important.
Yeah, I read this book, and it talks about 4 different parts of your identity: work, play, relationships, and self. And if you're way too over leveraged in one area, what happens is, as soon as there's something bad that happens in that area, you don't have the resources to get through it mentally and physically and spiritually. So obviously it's not perfect. And right now, most of you guys are in the season of committing to work as your primary focus. But if that's all you've got, especially once you are successful, you don't need to be working like crazy, then it's a ticking time bomb, really. At least for me, it was. And as always, guys, I'm just speaking from what I'm going through. I'm not saying this is the gospel, and you might have a different experience, but I know for a fact, my mental health was suffering. And I know for a fact, my relationships with the people that I care about were starting to slip. I wouldn't say they were gone, but I could tell it just wasn't the same. So given the fact that I can clock out, it would be stupid not to.
Do you think that in the beginning, though, if you were to do it again, basically, and this is such a hypothetical, but because I just feel like a lot of people, myself included on this call, are in the point where it's so much energy to, get the ball to the top of the hill. And I get that there has to be a certain degree of balance of still maintaining your needs as a human, but I just, because I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying at all. I think what you're saying is very true. I just think, clearly for people at different levels, which you know, like you said, it takes a lot more in the beginning. It just is like, it took, for what I thought it was going to take, which was hard work, it has been taking a lot more than even that, you know, and like, I expect it to take even more than that. And I don't know. I just wanted to input that and ask you, cause I thought it might be valuable for some other
Yeah,
people.
I think like, here's a good example. Whenever, like even outside of entrepreneurship, whenever someone gets a new job, they work really hard. Whenever someone gets a promotion, they work really hard. Whenever we start a business, it's a new business, we work really hard. But if you're at the point where you can afford to take a step back and you're still not taking a step back,
Yeah.
which it's true for a lot of us, like even some of my entrepreneurial friends that you guys know, like Jeff Seckinger, Ravi, like all those people, like they don't clock out. And it's like, they could be, if they took Saturdays off, they would be totally fine forever. So I think, and then again, I also think that in retrospect, you can maybe not take 2 weeks off at the beginning. I think that's a little ridiculous, but I think you can definitely be more conscious of recovery in order to be able to execute and take massive action. Even at the beginning, like you could take 2 or 3 hours a week to go work on something that, or to go do something that you're passionate about that isn't work, and your business will be fine.
Yeah.
You could say, you know what, every Sunday I'm going to even if you just clocked out on Sunday half day, you'd be fine.
One thing that's helped me too, that may help people on this call as well, what Joel's saying about clocking out on Sunday, another alternative too, especially if you're getting started, is like on Sunday, you just do what's fun for you in the business. Like, cause a lot of times for me, at least I never think I burnt out, but what makes me feel almost discouraged sometimes if I'm doing things that I haven't systematized yet, that I know I need to systematize. But if I can really focus on like, oh, I really enjoy blank in the business, I really enjoy making content or whatever, Sunday, then I focus on that or whatnot, or maybe half the day or whatever. But yeah, I do appreciate your response to that as well, brother, and being vulnerable with us.
Yeah. I think one last, how do you know when it's kind of a problem? When you lose control, also when the business takes over you and it's like, even if you can clock out, you don't. I think that's more of a problem than like hard work, right? I think it's like having the inability to be like, you know what, I'm going to turn my phone off and go spend a weekend doing something that I care about. If you can't do that just because your business is taking over your mind, that's when it's too far, right? So if let's say you're working really hard, man, you're working really hard, even Monday through Sunday. But if your friends invited you on this trip for just a day and it was all your best friends, if you actually can't let go, that's when I'd say it's a little bit too far. So I'm not against hard work. At least this is what I realized. I've been working really hard as soon as I got back every single day. I know, Jasmine, you've been seeing me in the Slack channel. Yanko, you've been seeing me in the Slack channels. Like, I'm working really hard. It's more so when you have all of your identity poured into the business and you have nothing else going for you, so then the business pretty much controls you and not the other way around, and you can't even clock out even if you want to, that's when it starts to get dangerous.
And it can really make you burn out. It can make you crash and burn. Don't let it happen. Even if you're really stressed about money, even if you're really stressed about clients firing you, you have to press the pause button. You have to sleep in a little bit sometimes, or you have to just you have to clock out. And Gavin, you're asking, how do you know about some of that stuff? I mean, there's seasons for everything. There's a time to sprint. But I'd say if you're just so stressed that you can't even think straight, that's when you have to step away, no matter
Correct.
what your bank account says, no matter how many clients, even if the clients have pitchforks, even if the clients have torches and pitchforks, because you know what, you're not going to die. Just you always have to remember, you're not going to die. You're not going to starve to death. And so no matter what your bank account says, you just gotta, all right, now I'm going to take this moment to breathe.
And there's actually a psychological benefit in terms of how this is going to help your business. Taking the step back, it's like when you're staring at a word and you're not sure if you're spelling it the right way, even though you totally know how to spell that word, and you just keep staring at it and it looks a little bit weird. Sometimes it mentally takes stepping away from a problem to be able to come back and be like, wow, why did I miss that? How did I overlook this problem? That's how I'm going to be able to solve this. So sometimes it is necessary, and it does help your business for you to take the step back and then come back looking at it as if you have fresh eyes.
Yeah, I think that's the irony, right? If you take that Sunday off, you end up feeling way better, and then you have a way better week. So, and then your business grows. At least it was an experiment, guys. I didn't know what was going to happen, but as soon as I came back, the biggest problem that we've had in the business by far, hands down, over the past 6 months has been inconsistent ability to spend money on ads. I preach paid ads, paid ads, paid ads, paid ads. I wasn't able to even do it myself because we were getting shut down. As soon as I come back, it was fixed. And I've been trying to solve this problem for 6 months. So like, it was just an experiment. It could have worked out the other way, but that made me believe that, hey, sometimes you just gotta be instead of do, and then things will work out. So,
hey Joel, can I share a little bit of story? Good to see you, brother.
yeah,
By the
man.
way.
Good
Yeah.
to see you too, man. You're crushing it, by the way.
Oh, thank you, too kind. One of the things that I've been kind of testing in my head recently, I used to have this a little bit of context for anyone that's listening. I used to get so stressed about business, like literally since the first time I started. Last year as well, there were certain times in which I went to bed thinking about it, woke up thinking about it. I was just so stressed out all the time. And one of the things I identify within myself is that within the past few months, back in October, my dog passed, and a lot of personal matters were happening, and my family came. They came into town to visit me. We all grieved, and we all bonded, and we all got closer together. And in this process, I was pretty much forced to take a little bit break from work, and I did, right? Because it was living in line with my values. For me, I value meaningful relationships over meaningful work. So I knew consciously that I was living in alignment with my values, but I still felt so much guilt and stress, and also shame and anxiety around not working, despite the fact that I was living in accordance with my values, right? So that was the moment that first hinted at me. I was like, dude, like something might have to change, because you're not like, why are you feeling the need to be somewhere else right now when you're living in accordance with your values, right? So for me, it began back in October. And since then, I've been doing a ton of emotional, really deep, really deep emotional work. And one of the things that I recognize about myself is as human beings, we have attachment towards the feelings that we consistently feel. So as entrepreneurs, we often have a tendency to when we are first getting started, we get into like this hustle and bustle mode, right? It's like, cool, like work hard, grind till you die, like hustle will help you make it work. At some point, I started questioning that framework. Like, does that have to be true? Do we have to hustle? Do I have to suffer in the process? Because the way in which I have handled it, especially last year, going into even this year, up until Mexico, until I met you guys, I had built, in order for me to tolerate that, cope with that, I had built around the identity of George being someone who has a high pain tolerance, right? It's like George is willing to work hard. I'm willing to suffer, right? And as a result, like if that's what I have built my identity around, cool, like I will suffer. I will experience pain in the process of building this business. And recently, I've gone through a really big shift and started questioning that very own belief. It's like, does work have to be suffering? Does work have to be painful, right? Does building something have to be stressed out of my mind all the time? And I started really experiencing something else in which I had to actually unlearn the stressful reaction in which I would always get from even the smallest activities from work. I had to unlearn those. I had to become aware of them and then actually let go of them and release them. And throughout this entire process, I've actually come out the other end. I'm no longer stressed about work, which is like, this sounds crazy. And my business as a result is actually doing better. It's exactly as both you and Jazz said. What I've identified is that in the times in which I feel at most at peace, most calm, I think a lot clearer. My reaction is a lot different. even on sales call, I'm not like begging for the sale. It's like, I'm not desiring it. I'm not fearing of losing the sale. I'm not fearing of saying the wrong thing or the right thing. I'm not desiring the sale and desiring X, Y, Z. And it just happened for me. So I just want to share my perspective for anyone that may be able to relate or may be in that place in which I was.
I'm really glad you said all that, George. You know, that there is like this mentality of hustle porn, which is just like, it like glorifies suffering. And it's like, no, like, fuck that. There's a good amount of pain, like with fitness, like with running, there's a good amount of pain. And then there's an amount of pain that's just torture, and it's going to lead to burnout. And
all athletes recover.
Yeah.
I think like that was, by the way, George, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that's probably one of the, it's not why I did the 2 weeks off, but I came to a very similar realization. And I feel like a lot of the stress that I've had was, again, like just built up from like this repetitive reactive pattern that I just got used to. And it's like, I don't need to react that way. Maybe it served me at the very beginning as a way to deal with the chaos of starting a business, but in the long run, it doesn't serve you at all. And I think that I do feel like I let you guys down maybe I don't feel like that. I just feel like it's time for me to step up as a leader and show you guys that you can both work really hard without sacrificing your values and your life. So I think that's my next phase as a leader, and trying to find more of a harmony between work and life, as opposed to this extreme one or the other type of mentality. And I think,
Joel,
Michael, what's up? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. One question that I wanted to understand is this sort of realization that you have, is it different than when you were with Atlas and you didn't have the coaching? Like, did you feel more comfortable stepping away from Atlas and like letting your team handle things than you do with the coaching? And if so, what do you think is different about the two businesses, where one made you feel more comfortable stepping away and the other
That's
one
a great question.
didn't?
With Atlas, I didn't really care as much. I cared a lot about you guys. I see you guys both as the people that I help in business, but also as friends. Like, even meeting a lot of you guys in Mexico, I'm like, you guys are people that I want to be friends with. So a part of it, stepping away, felt like letting people that I really care about down. That's why I really struggled with stepping away, because it's not letting down a chiropractor with their Facebook ads. It's a little, nothing against chiros, and it's not like I didn't care, but it's different when you're stepping away from people that you genuinely care about. So that's why, for me, at least, it has been harder. As soon as I started 7FA, it's been nonstop. So I think once I made that mental choice with Atlas, like, and leaving the day-to-day, it was kind of like, okay, I'm kind of done with this, but I'm much more passionate and I'd say spiritually driven by wanting to coach you guys and build really good relationships with you guys. So it's a lot harder. So
I don't know if this helps anyone or not, because basically where that question came from was, I saw a really interesting, I don't know if anyone else is, I'm sure a lot of you probably seen this too, but this interview with Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. And Bill Gates was talking about what he learned about his schedule from Warren Buffett, because he was saying, like, Bill Gates' schedule used to be full all day long. There was not a minute of his schedule that was free to do anything. And he looked at Warren Buffett's schedule and it was empty. And so he was like, I don't understand, how can you run all these companies? How can you be this successful with such an empty schedule? And he said, if your schedule's full like that, like, he's like, my job all day is to say no to everything as much as possible and give myself the space to think and to heal and to only focus on the most important activities. And if my schedule is full with a whole lot of stuff, it just becomes like noise and decisions that I'm not trusting other people to make. And he said that had a profound impact on him. And so Bill Gates started doing the same thing and noticed that his productivity actually went up after adopting the process that Warren Buffett had.
Yeah, I think there's also something to be said about just time to just be, right? And not have to do. And I mean, Warren is kind of the king of that. So, yeah, guys, those are some of the realizations. I also had a great time. I officially learned how to surf. That was cool. And yeah, let's see what else. It's fascinating because coming back, I also got much clearer on the big picture vision and what I want to do. And it's almost like now I know how to take everything that we're doing to the next level, but without the stress, without the chaos, and without also the pressure of needing it to happen. So that's pretty much it, guys. Any other question? Anyone else want to chime in?
I like to tell a story.
Go for it, Colin. What's up, Colin?
Yeah, so what's going on? So my story, this is completely unbusiness related, and this is something I realized on my own after starting my business. So for those of you that don't know, I'm just a younger guy. I'm 19. I started my agency right out of high school. And I'm a big baseball guy. I played baseball my whole life. And it was like I was really good when I was young, and as I got older, I kind of got worse. Is what I call it. So I joke around, tell my friends I peaked at 12, like because I was bigger than everybody and I was just good at hitting the ball and things like that. But my senior year of high school, we had 12 seniors on the team, and it was like our year. That was our year to win state because we had so many good players. I was 30. No, I'm 19. But I was so obsessed with making sure that I got playing time that I got in my own way, and I actually kept myself from getting playing time. So I won an award that year. It was called the Bulldog Award because we were the Bulldogs, and it was basically the guy who was just there first, last one out. So I was the hardest worker, and I never complained, and I just did what needed to be done, and I won that award. And I wanted to win that award, but looking back at it now, I was so in my own way that I ruined my season because I got in my own way and was so obsessed about it. So I got the hardest working award. I was always there hitting balls, fielding, throwing bullpens. I went 1 for 27, and it was an infield single. I had the worst season of hitting in my entire life, and it was 100% because I was just in my own way. I could not figure out how to step out of it and just let things be. And instead, I literally tried to force everything and ended up screwing it all up. And I actually ruined my playing time because I couldn't hit. And looking back at it after I started my business, I was like, I can't do this with my business. Like, I have to let things be and learn and just grow and just take what God gives me and not be so worried about forcing things. So like the idea of just being instead of forcing is huge. Because if you can just let things be, you become like this third person observer and you're like, oh, I would do this if this happened, or like if that happened, I would do this, instead of being so emotionally attached to it to where you can't make a decision because you're just going to freak out. And I don't know, I think that's something that's important for me. So I know with me, I have to keep myself busy with other things besides work. Otherwise, I'll get so obsessed with like getting clients and things that I'll sit here all day and do nothing. I will work hard, but do nothing. How can you not do any work, but do a lot? That's kind of how I have to look at it that way. Otherwise, I get in my own way. So hope that story helps some of you guys.
I think that's really powerful, man. I feel like everyone's just reading my mind of what I realized when I was gone. Because that's just, and even better, it's really good to just hear that some of you guys are there. And guys, that's something I've struggled with. Like Colin, you speak about not being able to do anything else. Like that's me to a T. So it's definitely one of the realizations that I had, and I hope to be able to be a leader to you guys and showing you that you can take a step back and have other aspects of your life while still having a very successful business. And what's crazy is like, it's like, I'll say one little quick thing. Like so much of my decisions were based around like, how do we grow the business? How do we grow the business? How do we grow the business? And I'm like, I'm not even the kind of guy that cares about money. I don't flex. I don't like, I mean, I have a nice apartment and like my dogs, but that's it. Like I drive a Jeep. I'm not even the kind of guy that is that driven by money. I have other values like relationships, like you guys, other values like exploring, doing things. Like when I was in high school, I had worked all through high school to be able to afford a trip to go to Japan. Like I was in Thailand, like other things in my life. And I think I also have a tendency to be extremely driven and committed. So just like Colin, if I don't have other things, it's really, really easy to just get sucked in and then nonstop. So anyone else want to share?
Hey man, I wanted to ask a question real quick back on the business and relationships. Been doing this for a while now, and I've been in a long-term relationship for about 6 years. So it hasn't taken a toll on them, but I do feel that my mental health sometimes affects their mental health, right? On business and everything else. What recommendations or what things that, I mean, how did you do that with your wife, right? Like check in just to make sure that partner is okay and your business isn't affecting them, their.
Luis, I think you got cut off, but I got the gist of it. I think, and guys, this is just what worked for me. There's many ways to do this. You have to find what works for you. And I'd say if first things first, for your relationships to be intact, for your business to be intact, it comes down to your relationship with yourself first. And if you're struggling with mental health, like I would go to therapy. If that's
Yeah,
something.
I do have a therapist. After you, I saw one of your, when I joined 7FA, that was the first thing I did before even of the other pillars, honestly. I signed up, got a therapist. So that's helped a lot. I just wanted to make sure, what things you saw in yourself where you're like, hey, you know what, I need to stop with my partner.
Yeah, I think, like I said, first, it just comes down to working on yourself. So for a while, it's interesting because at the beginning we clocked out for 2 weeks and I was like, I'm doing this because I want to spend more time with my wife and we're going to have an amazing time. But then I realized, maybe I need to do more stuff like this for me. And then it'll end up actually helping the relationship. So it's more about you wanting to work on your mental health, you wanting to work on other aspects of your life outside of work for you, not for your relationships. And then your relationships will thrive because of it. What else has worked for me? I mean, me and my wife communicate a lot of communication, being very open about everything. I mean, there's a lot of how to have good relationships. It's a big topic. I would say making sure your values are aligned. That's really important. And really understanding each other's needs. I think that's really important. But there's a lot. I'm not a relationship coach.
Oh, I got you, man. I just feel like I'm at that point where you were, like we take vacations or we go somewhere and like I'm having to check in or do something, I just feel bad for that person sometimes.
Yeah, I think it's just about understanding each other's needs, over communicating. But like, for example, with my wife, all I was talking about was work. Even when we were on vacation, I had my computer, I was doing work, I was thinking about work. She said something really interesting. She said, you are with me, but you're mentally not with me. So I think it's like also really being present with each other and actually being present, but it starts with you. You have to want to be present for you because that's something that you care about. Just like George said, realizing that that's your core value, not just for the other person. Because if it's just for the other person, it's fleeting. It might work, but then it won't work. So I think I realized when I was gone, okay, I'm at the point where my business will be totally fine, even if I'm not there every day. I want to work on other aspects of myself. I want to work on my physical health a little bit more. I want to take up other hobbies. So anyways, Guys, that was really super long. That wasn't even what we were supposed to do today, but hopefully you guys found value. Anyone else want to share?
I would say off of like what Luis is going after, and like be mindful of it's with the relationships you have with others and you go see them, be like mindful of the kinds of energy that you bring to those encounters and those interactions. Because it's like, if like anyone's had a roommate and they have say your roommate has a really high stress job and they come home and you can just feel like, the stressfulness just like coming off of their body. Like you can just feel how stressed out they are and how they're still at work. Like they're still there. So I would just say, especially with your partner, like try to be super mindful of the kind of energy you bring, even if you have like a rough day or whatever, like over communicate, but be really mindful of the kind of energy you're going to bring in when you walk in the door. I guess that's what I would add.
No, thanks, man. That was good. I appreciate it. It makes sense, and that's the thing. It's just like I'm coming in hot, some days, and I don't mean to do it on purpose. And it's just, I know sometimes it takes longer to cool off than other people, and I never get upset or anything else, but I can just feel like the hurricane behind me and whatever door I come through. So that's kind of what the questions are. But you put in a good point. Thank you.
Of course.
And Luis, I would actually add to that, and Dante, that's such a great point. For me, I in the past, like I was never like, anytime anyone ever has mentioned like energy, like I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't understand it. I'm like, what is it, right? And then even when I heard like emotions equals energy, emotion, like I still didn't understand it. I couldn't wrap my head around it. With a lot of work that I've been doing recently, it's like it has really started holding true for me. Like, and I started self-verifying, critically thinking, like, is this true? Like, does this apply for the way I perceive reality? For me, it's been, nothing has been more true in terms of us being able to feel emotions from like another person, right? It's like when a person comes in, if they're highly stressed or they're really relaxed, you can feel that, right? It's like you can feel the tension. You can feel when someone's like really angry because the way in which they act, they burrow the brows or whatever it may be, or they're a little tense, right? It's like, or even the way they react to a thing you say. It's like we're able to pick up on these things. And when I started digging deeper, I'm a very curious person, so I like to like go from like both sides, right? Because even right now, I still wouldn't consider myself to be like whoa. Although there's nothing wrong with that. That's my honest belief. But for me, I had a hard time like trying to understand that side. And for me, I'll oftentimes come from like a logical standpoint. And for me, what I've discovered and identified is that, I mean, we as people, like we're social creatures, right? Like we react not based on what reality is, but based on how we view reality, right? And oftentimes our reality also consists of other people's, which we don't inherently have control over. And one of the things we have is like we have mirror neurons in our brain in which we mirror whatever it is that we see, right? So if one of the persons coming across and we feel they're really tense and really angry, it's like our initial reactions, like we're going to react to them in a certain way, right? So we're going to be like a little defensive, maybe like standing off a little bit is like, I don't want to piss them off. Whereas if a person's walking in just like smiling, just joyfully, like you'd probably actually reciprocate that, whether you're actually consciously thinking that or not. So I just want to like further add to that point. So yeah.
No, appreciate it, man. That's good. Thank you.
I can also speak to some of the other changes outside of work that I'll be making. So I think maybe this might help, Luis, just giving some more tactical stuff. I hired a life coach. That's one thing. So it's not business. He's not helping me at all with my business. To invest, one thing I'm doing is investing in other things outside of work. Picking up a new hobby. When I moved to Colorado, I tried rock climbing for like 2 months, gave up on it. So I went and signed up for a rock climbing gym. That way I'm also spending time outside as well in the summer. Other things that I'm doing, if you don't have a therapist, definitely recommend everyone should get a therapist to get their emotions and their belief systems kind of in line and try to really figure out what trauma is holding them back and how they show up every single day. Other things that I'm doing, I'm clocking out every day by 7 p.m. Phone off. Then I don't turn the phone back on till at least 9:30 a.m. Trying to take, Saturday completely off, Sunday depends on the weekend. I think that's pretty much it.
I guess one last question I do have. So what about, this might be pretty rough, but what about like the mental health of our VAs or our assistants? The only reason I mention is partner, and then sometimes my employee had an employee telling me that he had some real personal stuff and was thinking these suicide thoughts, right? So it's kind of like me trying to be in leadership, me explaining to my therapist like the fires that I have to put out, work related and employee related. Any kind of like feedback on like VA mental health?
I think it just starts with you first. So for example, I could tell you guys to go and do all these things, but it's much more powerful if I just did all these things. Just like George is showing up and doing all these things. You can do a whole master class on it, but it's more powerful if you actually walk the talk and take action on it.
Definitely care for your team's well-being. I mean, that's very, very, very important. You know, I'm always wanting to make sure that my team is good. And, you know, if they need to take a mental health day, they got to take a mental health day. You know, they're people too, and you want to make sure they don't get burnt out. You know, you have to keep in mind, if you're going to be a leader, if you're going to be the leader, you have to take care of them almost in like almost like in a parental way. Like if you're going to employ them, like their lives are going to depend on you. And I know that's a lot of pressure to bring on, but you have to remember that too. When you're going to be a leader, you have to take care of your people, you know. But how can you take care of your people, as Joel says, if you're not taking care of yourself? You can't. So you have to take care of yourself, make sure you're good, and also take care of your people.
Yeah, like
I highly
we
recommend that.
had someone on the team that was like very tired, stressed out. So I was like, take the entire week off. That's a clear example. But then again, like I also have to be better at saying, like I told Jasmine, like we were talking about that a few days ago. Like I have to be better at like also telling the team, hey, no Slack messaging after 7 p.m. or no Slack messaging on Saturdays. But like I said, it starts with you. And like Gavin said, it also depends on where you're at in the process. But I think the conversation is not a matter of hard work. I think we all value hard work. It's a matter of not letting the business control you to the point where you're sacrificing your values and all you see is work. Guys, I speak to this all the time. I don't think George, you believe in hard work. I think you just know that if it gets to the point where your other core values are getting sacrificed for it, that's when it's controlling you as opposed to the other way around. What do you think about that?
Dude, so this is so interesting you brought that up, because I'm trying to figure that out for myself right now. Because for those that don't know, like I've been working out for a while. That was the first thing that like got me into personal development and changed my entire life. For those that don't know, I was born in Japan, raised in China, and I came to the US when I was 10. Didn't speak a word of English. Childhood was super tough. I was very anxious, like obviously depressed at some point. I wasn't able to make a whole lot of friends. Didn't speak English, kind of hard. But when I got to 18, started diving into fitness, and it changed everything for me. Since that moment onward, I was like, I would say I'm in decent shape, and I've been working out for a while, and I believe in hard work. And for the longest time, like that was what really pushed me through. I was just like grind. Like high pain tolerance, cool. Like I handle whatever life throws at me. David Goggins, like soaked it in. And recently, like I've been questioning it, dude. Like, I don't know, honestly, because like what I'm seeing in my business and also in my life, all around me, not just my business, but my relationships and everything. I've come across this book that's like been blowing my mind. Wyra actually recommended it to me. And I've just been doing a lot of incredibly emotional work, and it's just been more effective. And going back to, I forget who had brought, I think Michael who brought it up. The book is called The Sedona Method. It's been absolutely mind-bending for me, mind-shattering. Like I've tried a lot of personal development stuff, like Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza. I meditate 2 hours a day, tons of stuff. Nothing has been as effective for me as the Sedona method. Crazy. Like I kid you not. It's been like my normal close.
Yeah, what was that name of that book, brother?
The Sedona method. Dude, it's like insane. Like my close rate's normally like 25%. That was before I jumped in Temple's program. I've been closing at 100%. And it still is at the moment. So we'll see how it plays out. I don't know. And it's been remarkable
soft flex.
It's been I've been just like trying to explore.
Been closing at 100%, you know, it works.
It's just it's crazy. I've been trying to explore, like, is hard work really necessary? And based on what Michael was saying before with Bill Gates versus Bill Gates and Warren Buffett, right? It's like when we think about like the 80-20 rule, like 80-20 is like fractal, right? So like what that means is if you take 80-20 off 80-20, it's like 8 times more effective. I can't remember the math, right? So it's like by that logic, if you actually, from a logical standpoint, chose to not believe in hard work and you focus on the one thing that is like the 80-20 of the 80-20 of the 80-20 of the 80-20, and that one thing gets 80% of the results, like, is that hard work? I don't know, right? So for Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, it seems like he's just always looking for that one thing. It's kind of like what Russell Brunson, Tim Ferriss also talks about with the big domino, right? It's like at any given time, like with the bottleneck that you're experiencing, diagnosing the problem is the first thing, but then if you identify the big domino and if you spend a ton of time tackling the big domino and you just do that and no other things, it's like, could it provide just as much output with so much less input, right? So that's what I'm trying to figure out for myself. So far, so good. So that's me personally. But
I think that's really powerful. I think also like I had a lot of realizations, guys, but I know I'm trying to remember them and they're just coming back. One of the other things I realized is the business will mold to the boundaries that you set for it and the space that you give it, the amount of energy that you give it. So for example, I'll give you a very, very real example. For the longest time, Jasmine and I would collaborate on like Sunday and come up with a weekly schedule. What happened when I wasn't there to do that? Jasmine, like, she's more than capable. That is not a thing that she needs to collaborate with me on. But for so long, that's what we did. That's what I gave that was the boundary that I set for the business. So then that's what would happen. That's kind of the rule. So another way to look at it is if you ask yourself, how can you get the same results with only 4 hours a day, half the time? And if that's really the only space you gave it, that's how you're going to build the business. So yeah, just trying to find more balance in all of that. And also, while I was gone, I also read Tim 4 Hour Work Week again. So that got me thinking about that. Let's see, we got 1 minute left, guys. I'm going to skip the announcements. So any other insights anyone want to share?
Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy life. Let things be. Do whatever you want.
Yeah, this call was cool, man. This call was
great.
We've had some free for alls, where kind of everybody chats, but this was definitely nothing that I've experienced yet in the group.
Yeah, we've it come and go. When they happen, they happen. We've definitely had some group heart-to-hearts before you've joined. I know, like, George, even looking back, like, there was one call that was like insane. And but when it happens, you just let it happen. So yeah, I'm glad we went off topic and had this call, guys. Why don't we do this to just kind of practice what we preach and put it into action? What if everyone has to take 1 day off this weekend, fully mandatory?
Look at Gil on top, right? He goes, no.
Actually, great idea. Everybody in chiropractic niche, take a couple days off. I'll continue to work.
If you guys want to. It would be, it's practicing what we talked about, putting into action. I'm going to start a thread, little challenge. And
now, Joel, are we talking like phone off?
Phone off.
Oof, man, that's
You're
tough.
out.
That's tough. All right, start the thread. Start the thread.
Colin, are you doing it or what? Are you
I'll do
in
it.
or are you out?
I'll do it.
Just one day.
I'll do it. Sunday though.
It doesn't matter. Whatever day you want, Saturday or Sunday.
All right. Deal.
I'll do it tomorrow.
I'm in.
I got tea time at 1:45.
Hey, let's go under par.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I've been hitting it good though.
You two, everyone on my team, Yanko, Jasmine, whoever else is on the team. No, I don't want to see any Slack messages for a whole day. And we'll report back next Friday on what we learned. How does that sound, guys?
Jasmine's already setting up the external, like everybody in the company, and you're like in a separate Slack. Right? Like, all right, guys, this is the Saturday Slack chat. This is like the Saturday Slack account. Like, we gotta put it on a separate credit card. Like, I know she just got that like hide my credit card shit. Like, she's gonna get that stuff set up today.
I already know they already have separate Slack channels and text message threads. I already know that. There's no doubt about it. There's no doubt about it.
Jasmine's like, shit, they found out. I thought I was getting away with this in secret.
All right,
Who exposed it?
Who's down to clock out one day this weekend?
I'm good.
Drop a one below. I'm doing it. I'm gonna do it on Sunday.
Yeah, same.
Phone off, 100%. Although it's actually hard. That's why I'm gonna buy something called a light phone that allows you to use GPS and like calculator and things like that. Like, for example, on Sunday, I'm going to go snowboarding. I have to drop my dog off at daycare. It's hard not to, like, you have to communicate with the person. So like phones are tools. So I don't know if you guys have heard of this. I'll send you the link. But me and my wife are going to buy one. Let me just send you the link. It's called the lightphone.com. It's not loading. I don't know why the link is not loading, but yeah, check it out. It allows you to essentially use like all the things you would actually need without social media, internet, all that stuff. So yeah, there you go. All right, guys. Catch you next Friday. Much love. Appreciate you guys. Hopefully you found value in that. And one day off. I'm going to create a thread right now. I want to see who's in. I'm going to drop it in the group in the next 1 minute.